Good evening, everybody. Hey, I dug up a very interesting article that I want to try to refute in a polite as possible way. We have a gentleman who believes that this guy wrote it at a place called medium.com. And if there's a mistake here, I'm not going to name, then this is the individual, or so it goes. That's what it says. If any of this is wrong or I got a bad source, then I totally apologize for anything I'm about to say. But I guess somebody apparently believes this well-known truth that this object right here actually equals to 1. It's a mathematical limit. This gentleman right here emphatically claims it's not equal to 1. Now, I just want to say a couple of things before we get started, just to make sure on the, and this is all in the name of scientific inquiry. It's not anything malicious or vindictive, but I can't believe such an absurdity would get published without anybody trying to refute it. Maybe they did, and I just didn't see the comments. Okay, but this 0.9 bar means exactly this. Okay, and what it is, it's an infinite sum, if you will. In other words, you can write this, and I'm going to detail this on the next page, but that's 9 over 10, the very first position, plus 9 over 100 would be the second position. And then plus, let's say 9 over 1,000. We can stop there and write down the ellipsis. Now notice these are all just powers of 10. This is 10 to the first power, this is 10 to the second power, this is 10 cubed. And I'll put the plus dot dot. So the gentleman who wrote the article acknowledges that this is an infinite process. It never stops. Okay? And so that whole process is infinite, ergo there's either a limit or there's not. Well, we can show that this expression for any value of n, and by n I mean like this would be 1, 2, right here, 3. And so if this wasn't an infinite process, it would be indexed by the natural number 3. All right, we could talk about the number 0.999 finite. But what is true is this type of expression for any fixed value of n is going to be less than 1. There's no doubt about that for finite expressions. All right, but we can show that in the limit, the expression is still bounded above by 1. Okay, and again, he knew what he was saying. He used words like infinity here. Okay, that means not finite. He claims that the analytical rigor that he applies exceeds the sum knowledge of all mathematicians around the world for about the last 400 or 500 years. So he's a pretty bright guy, or so he thinks. Now let's take a look at the next page here. Okay, now y'all, sometimes this is written, let me just get a little bit more. Well, we've already done that, but I'll just do it again in the name of, let's see, here we go. So this object right here, y'all, I'm trying to get my pencil to work here. All right, so this object right here, of course, is the 0.9 bar. Okay, that's what that thing is right there. Now, so all of this work that I've done below guarantees that any finite sum is bounded above by 1, and that S sub n could never exceed 1. And again, this is a concrete example just to make sure we're on the same page. S sub 5 is this number right here. That's just 0.99999. And notice that 1 minus that partial sum is a very, very small number already, and we're just at the 5th partial sum. Now, in general, you can write it like this. All right, notice this says 10 raised to the 5th power, but in general, your S sub n is actually 1 minus 10 to the n. So you see, we've shown that it's bounded below by 1. Okay, and if it was finite, the gentleman would be correct, but it's not finite. This process continues indefinitely for all natural numbers. Now, let's be clear on what the natural numbers are. The natural numbers are just the counting numbers. Okay. Some people claim the natural numbers have transcendent origin. They were given to us by transcendent being. That's what we mean by natural number. We're not talking about infinity or anything strange. We're just talking about, for all natural numbers, this statement is true, which assures us that the sum of this thing has to be less than 1. But the problem is it's increasing forever and ever and ever, if you want to use that language, okay? It continues to increase. N can get indefinitely large just by the notation, which he acknowledges is infinite. This notation suggests an infinite string of summands. This is a finite string of summands. This is a finite string of summands down here, okay? But this is an infinite string of summands, and you have to handle it differently. You have to handle it differently in a limit sort of fashion, okay? And so, again, the only way you could disagree with this outcome would be if you did not believe that this tended to 0. And that really makes the proof incontrovertible. As n gets extremely large, this value tends to 0, and it can never stop. That's where I think the gentleman doesn't understand the difference between finite and infinite. Sure, any finite case is going to be less than 1 and not equal to 1, but the mere fact that he adopts this notation means that he knows what infinite means, I think, you know. But this expression already right here, just for 10 to the 5th power, we're talking about what, 1/10,000th or 100,000 something, you know. This definitely tends to 0, and that's simply what this expression means. All right, it's a limit of a bunch of partial sums. It means that. There's nothing deep philosophically at all. But anyway, I hope that puts this to rest. And again, my apologies if this was an inauthentic source or somebody just doing clickbait. But incontrovertibly, this object here, 0.9 bar for us lazy people who don't want to write it down, but the ellipsis is more suggestive and descriptive. This guy right here is flat out equal to 1, because acknowledging the notation to begin with, your own notation, indicates you know that it's infinite. All right, so it never can stop short of 1. All right, so its limit is 1. Now, if you want to contest that definition, that's your choice, but you're going against the grain of probably half a millennium of very well constructed, rigorous mathematics. Thanks for watching.